Okay, so today we're going to talk about food webs, and our focus question is going to remain, can organisms live in isolation? And this goes on the right side of your notebooks. So what are food webs? They show who is eating whom. So they show the direction of predator-prey relationships. Ecosystems require continuous energy input from the sun, so these are always part of a food web. The sun is always the constant. All energy, like we said, starts with the sun energy in the food web. And we already know that plants convert sunlight into food as well as with CO2. So when we look at a food web, the arrows show the flow of energy from something being eaten to whatever is eating it. So you'll notice that in here it shows the giraffe and the tree. And the energy flows from the tree into the giraffe, so from something being eaten to whatever is eating it. And then once again to the lion, from the giraffe, the arrow flows from whatever is being eaten to whatever is eating it. So what are food webs good for? We can use them to predict what will happen when we introduce or take away a species from an ecosystem. So if a species were to go extinct or another species, like an invasive species, were to move in, we can use food webs as a model to try and predict what will happen when we introduce or take away a species from an ecosystem. So once again, you have that flow of energy from what's being eaten to what's eating. So it can be in the form of something as simple as this diagram, where you just see this chain, and this is a food chain, or a lot more complicated to this web where there's lots of inputs and outputs coming in. So when we look at a food web like this, a decrease in prey would cause a decrease in the predators. And that makes sense because if there's less food to eat, then the predators are going to have a harder time surviving. So before we move on to our independent work, let's name some more of the environmental roles. And this is practice of the stuff that we did yesterday. So the first one is this plant. And this is a primary producer or an autotroph. The next one is all of these vultures around an animal, a zebra carcass in the middle. You can see the stripes right here. And these are an example of scavengers. And now we see this worm type organism, looks like a centipede or a millipede. And this is eating some compost in what looks like a compost pile. And these are considered our decomposers. And now we see a picture of a shark. And we know that sharks eat other organisms, which would make this a carnivore, a top predator, or what we would also consider a tertiary consumer. And when we see that word tertiary means third or three. An ant carrying a leaf for food, an herbivore. So that ends our slideshow for today in your video. So I want you guys to move on to your biome project. Make sure that your roles are all filled out for your biome that you have chosen. Once you're done, move on to your worksheet that was provided for you.